Not ready. Mila and Derek, do you know Kelly? Have you known Kelly before? Hi, Laura. So Mila is the township manager for West Town and Derek's the township manager for East Coast.
Feel like we.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
And I feel like
We probably have,
yeah, probably has a
before.
window or something.
yeah.
I'm just opening these for you, Kathy. Thank you. So what happens to the rest of the meeting?
Check. So when you're ready to go to the budget, we can just click right here. And we can go back and forth off and use that.
Thank you.
And then.
Yeah, thank you. You're welcome. The meeting's in session then.
Dixie, great. Welcome to the October 23rd, 2024 West Town East Goshen Police Commission meeting. My name is Dick Pomerantz. I'm the chair. I'm going to go around the table and ask everybody to introduce themselves.
I'm Tom Stone at large.
David?
I'm David Molnar, East Goshen Township President.
Mila Carter, West Town Township Manager.
Derek Davis, East Goshen Township Manager.
Dave Hale with West Town Police.
Chief Bernat, WeGo PD.
Kathy Brill, business manager for WeGo.
Kelly Tatum, administration here at the police department.
And I appreciate everybody being here, and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And before we sit, I'm going to just do a moment of silence and ask recognition, not just those who have given their lives, but also everybody who's a first responder and the incredibly important role that they play. And also on a personal note to Kathy's mother and other family members who are recovering from their challenges, their health challenges. A prayer for a healthy recovery for everybody. Thank you. We held an executive session just prior to the meeting, discussed primarily personnel issues, which will lead us then to the approval of the minutes of September 18th, 2024. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Thanks, Cody. Any questions about it on the minutes? All in favor? Aye. I need you guys to.
Aye.
Chairman's report. First of all, I want to thank the chief. I want to thank the chief as well as my understanding is other members of the police department who help provide insights regarding a really interesting meeting that Mila and I participated in yesterday. It has to do with the Stokes development. The short version of it was the Board of Supervisors of West Town on a 2-to-1 basis turned down the original or the application from the developer. And that was about a week ago today, approximately. Or that was 2 Mondays ago, but then a week ago today, I got a phone call from our legal counsel to Mila as our township manager, and then to me, and that originated with the to our legal counsel from the developer's legal counsel, if we would consider doing something a little bit different, and would I, as a supervisor, agree to meet with the developer and the lawyer, basically to explore whether there was a way that we could overcome the no vote, which had already taken place. in the 4.5 years that I've been a board member and the 6 years that I was a planning commission chair, I'd never heard of that ever happening. It was a brand new experience for me. It was interesting. First thing I did ask our township legal counsel, McKenna, is this real and is it legal? And the short answer was yes. And I said, why do you think they were doing that? And he said, because we all made an assumption this was going to go to appeal, and obviously then we get into litigation right away, and it would have been quite costly. That's not to suggest it may not happen, but I agreed that I would be happy to sit down with them. Mila and I spent a tremendous amount of time together in the past week. I want to say this publicly. I said it publicly before, and also when we met with the developer and his legal counsel yesterday. Not just the quantity of work and the research that was done, but the quality of work and this incredible collaboration effort that the two of us did. But she deserves a lot of credit for it. She was extraordinary. And it was interesting because that's the way the developer started the meeting. The assumption is that, would this be somehow some conflictual? It wasn't at all. It was, he'd already seen just from the material that we presented, how much work we went into this. And as I said to him from the very beginning, we've started a very different approach, perhaps different than what most planning commissions do. We already knew what the net result was, which is that we had turned down the project. But the developer and the legal counsel, plus there were a fair number of people in the audience 2 Mondays before, they had seen the various, the three decisions. One board member very strongly saying, I'm in favor of it. The other board member saying, I'm very strongly against it. And then it came down to, I guess, the perception was that I was a swing vote. The reason for it is because I waffled on it. I mean, I waffled because I could understand both points of view. And so if waffling means is that I didn't have a strong point of view, that would actually be incorrect. But I also was trying to do something to say, as I said to the audience towards the end of as I described it, a soliloquy, I said, if anybody thinks there's not going to be a development here, that's wrong. In fact, I think the words I used was delusional. There will be a development. The question is what kind of development? With the obvious question is that with so many homes within the pipelines, and that tends to draw quite an emotional response from the residents. The net result of our meeting yesterday, which went on for quite a period of time, was we gave them some things to think about. We met with, Mila and I had conducted meetings with a total of 11 different individuals from different backgrounds with different perspectives, and not the same sort of cast of characters you would normally think about. And so we presented this option and said, well, here are the things that we're thinking about. And we presented it as is. And we said, we're not necessarily wedded to it, but does this give you, the developer, something to think about? Because if we continue down the path they were going, we'd already said no as a township. They actually liked it. They appreciated the fact that the work went into it. We knew going into this, they weren't going to accept everything. And they knew that we weren't going to accept everything, or at least as is. And so they've gone back to the drawing board. They'll be presenting their option. They'll come back within just a few days. As I said to at least one of our board members in a call this morning, I don't know how this will end result, but the amount of good faith that was created as a result of this process, it was an eye opener. But I want to thank, and I said this to the chief privately, and I'll say it again. When I asked her for her point of view, like, give me a perspective on it. To her credit, she said, well, I don't know how much I can offer because that's not her expertise. I mean, law enforcement is, but this is a new development, and she'd already provided some insights about what she thought. And I said, what I'm really looking for, and I think the expression you may remember was, I said, intellectual capital. Somebody to take a look at what is clearly, even the developer would say, this is not the ideal location for a development. and, you were kind enough to give it some thought. I'm understanding that you went and spoke to a number of people in the police force, to give them, ask their points of view. Those points of view resonated, which is interesting. It gave both sides something to think about that we hadn't heard before. So I really want you to know that that did resonate. So I appreciate that you went through the effort. And obviously, I'll bring you up to date once I know where it goes. The other, I wanted to, this is really very much police related. This is actually for you guys as well, because this is something came up after our board meeting 2 Mondays ago. I thought you'd be interested. And that is that when the chief mentioned to the public that one of the trends that we're seeing in Westtown, maybe perhaps in East Goshen as well, of all the various different things that you mentioned, and I haven't mentioned this to the chief yet, that commentary that you brought up about this trend of stolen phones at the porch, boy, did that resonate. It came as a surprise. Most people were not aware of it. And I probably had, which is unusual for like a supervisor, Westtown, get about 6 or 7 phone calls. The word had spread. People saying, did you know that this is going on? Blah, blah, blah. And if anything, more information, get that out. And whatever you can to communicate that.
ID worked with the admin unit to get a Facebook post out about 5 to 6 days before I brought it up at your township meeting. We've been getting a lot of sharing of it,
Good.
so the word is getting out.
Yeah, because and the public needs to hear it more and more. And one of the questions that came out is that you had mentioned as part of that sort of commentary. And so here's the question that I was asked by the public. You said, well, you know, if they have like a private address or a business address, but a lot of people don't. So what do they do? So let's put it in the context of homeowner X.
You want to bring it up, Dylan? I think it was your idea. CID, was it yours?
The one thing that I would
Stand up.
suggest, I'm not sure if it's a possibility.
Yeah, come up closer so you're carried on the mic.
As I was going to try to suggest that individuals who are getting these packages request signatures for delivery. Now, it'd be something that they would have to work through the cell phone provider, which has predominantly been AT&T, or with FedEx, which the trend is showing. It's all AT&T and it's all FedEx. So finding a way to make sure delivery is made to the individual customer and not sit on a front porch, because unfortunately they are being stolen within a couple of minutes. We know why that is. But that would be, I think, the one suggestion that I would put out there.
And Detective Diamond was really thinking outside the box, and I'm hesitant to bring it up at a public meeting. But we are considering, we're working out the ins and outs of offering the police department as a location for high value items such as cell phones, because
Well,
we
that'd be
know
great.
this is a trend. There's a lot of consequences that would obviously impact the workload of the admin unit,
Sure.
but it may be one way for us to stem this trend until it can be addressed from a higher
How
level. I
many
think I was-
phones have been stolen?
Within our township,
Yeah, in WeGo.
I could think of at least in the last 3 months, at least 3 or 4 incidents that we've been made aware of. It's happening every single day,
It's happening all over everything.
all over the
All
place.
over, yeah.
Most, and a lot of it's in Pennsylvania. It's one of the hot spots at the moment.
Why is that? Do we know?
There is a reason, but I don't think it's appropriate for.
Yeah, we have an idea of why,
Okay.
for sure.
And you guys could discuss that offline.
100%. I'm happy to talk to you.
The other question that I was asked, and that is that when you brought up, Chief, to the public and said is that these people are they're sort of, they're on the lookout. They're waiting for that delivery person to come by. How does one know?
And again, is that something you want to talk about in a public meeting?
Yeah, I'm not sure if we can put it out there public. There is an answer to that question.
Yeah.
We know what the answer is. It's just, it's all investigative stuff. We don't want it to get out there necessarily so they can try to change it up.
I actually meant it differently. If I'm a member of the public,
Okay.
well, and so this thing comes, it's delivered on my porch.
Yep.
And I'm even in the house, okay? How will I know that the person who's coming to the door afterwards is not, or maybe that's part of the same question, is not going to try to steal something. How do I, like, how can a resident discern the difference between,
Legitimate delivery
Legitimate.
taking place, somebody pretending to be one.
yeah,
That's why they're using and wearing Amazon vests.
Amazon, you know.
They hide themselves the best they can to hide in plain sight to confuse homeowners, that type of stuff. So
is it then, and this is just for us now, is it fair to say that this is a trend that's going to continue?
I would imagine it would until the next good thing comes up. I mean, check washing was a huge one about 18 months ago, and that started to slow down. And we still get it from time to time.
Right.
You know, I think the banks are starting to catch up and people are starting to catch up with preventing that. So now this is the most recent trend that we're seeing at the moment.
Okay.
And will it run its course? Who's to say? But they seem to evolve and change up schemes as we unfortunately catch up because we're always a little behind. Not just we as the police department, I'm talking about society in general. Multiple agencies are involved, multiple companies are involved, and it's just a slow moving wheel.
And so again, just to sort of close the loop on it, I was amazed, even after all the discussion that the WeGos provided the residents of check washing, this about the phones, once the chief spoke about it, that drew more attention than anything else I've ever seen.
But we all get them.
Yeah,
They're a lot of money,
yeah,
you know, so.
Interesting.
And it's, and you know, people losing mail is one thing, but having somebody come to your front porch, to your house or your garage, that's a little more intrusive, right? So I can understand why people get a little more
appreciate it.
worked up for that.
Two of the key words that you said though were hiding in plain sight.
Hide in plain sight. Yes, they are.
Yes.
Cody, Vice Chair, comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one thing, I know that everyone made the introductions for the record. Cody Bright, Youth Goshen Township Supervisor, Vice Chair of the Commission. I just wanted to thank the commission and the police department for being willing to move the meeting time today to 4 p.m. to allow me to participate virtually. I look forward to being back in person next month. So thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm just pleased that the department is running the way it's running. We are continued that our mission is to see that you come home safe at the end of the tour. That's not going to change. And I will have to say that in the last month, I have been extremely delighted at the number of officers and several officers who've reached out and the comments that I've received and the clarity that they have in chatting. So keep up the good work.
Review of approved bills for September 11th and September 24th.
So moved.
Second.
Unless there's comments or questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Cody. Township roundtable. Derek?
Sure, I'll go first. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So not too much to report, police related. We are done our, what I would call event season. We have a few Christmas ones. We do have the tree lighting thing we do, but for the most part, the big events are done for the year, for the season. The one thing I did want to bring up, police perspective, we do have that new trail that we put in on Reservoir Road, which is part of the Milltown Dam project. We are exploring right now the possibility of putting the speed limit at 25 miles per hour down there. Right now it is at 35. I actually did talk to Ted Lewis about it. I talked to our engineers, so trying to keep everybody in the loop. The board did want to get a traffic study, speed study done first. So we're in the midst of that right now with our engineer. And we'll see what the numbers come back at. And it's a pretty simple ordinance change, but the board wanted to see the study come in first to see what the numbers actually were. But it's quite a possibility that we do the 25 miles per hour there at the end of the day. Just that section of Reservoir.
When you pass the ordinance, if you could just let us know, so we'll make a per capita announcement so that it can be enforcement by everyone.
Bill?
We've had a very successful West Town Day, so thank you for being there. We've had approximately 500 people. Considering that like last year, it wasn't at the same level in terms of attendance, we were very happy to see a lot of people being there. Oakland Park is now officially complete when it comes to athletic course. So if you haven't had a chance, I have not gotten too many calls about the noise as it relates to pickleballs. I haven't gotten any calls about people fighting over the parking spaces as we did before while the park was under construction. So we're just monitoring. We are hoping to have parks coordinated at some point in the future. So this is something to explore for 2025. Our Pleasant Grove sanitary sewer force main replacement project that is, you can see on South Concord Road, that will be ongoing until end of November. We are hoping that that section, the section from the pump station to Oakland Park, almost complete. And then we will be working on a section that goes all the way under the bridge. So it's going to be probably another month or so for get that done. So you see some road restrictions and things like that. We've been getting some phone calls primarily related to political signs within the right-of-ways. So I just monitor the situation based on if there are any signs that posted in a way that the cars might be hitting them or they pose any sort of safety hazard. Those are the signs that we would remove. Everything else, we just leave the signs be until after the election. And we would request the parties to come out and remove the signage, or we'll remove the signage. And I think that's it. And we talked about the Stokes.
Any questions for either Derek or me? Oh, Chief Bernard, your report.
Okay, with regard to concerns, just going to reiterate that the entire police commission packet, it continues to be available on our website. It enables people who want to attend either in person or virtually to see what we're talking about in advance. And again, this month, we have the capability for people to participate remotely, virtually, like the townships do. The one thing that I do want to point out, this is usually more sensitive in Scotia than it is in West Town, but Mila brought it up. This year, once again, the Chester County District Attorney's Office is leading the law enforcement effort for the Election Day response. They are ensuring that there's adequate staffing. They held a mandatory meeting at the beginning of October for all police departments to make sure that everybody was fully aware of what their operations plan would look like, where the polling places were, and some of the unique Pennsylvania law that is unique to elections. So I believe that the department and the county is prepared to respond to what may come, if anything comes. So I'm pleased to announce that. Usually that's more East Goshen asks about that, but I figured I'd share it in the general meeting. With regard to compliments, on October 21st, there were 24 compliments that were distributed to the police commission. The compliments ranged from happiness with the way a crash investigation is completed. An East Goshen supervisor completed a ride along. Feedback from a father about Officer Bevenauer's interaction with both he and his daughter. Burglary of a business in which the property was recovered and the actor arrested. Life skill thank you cards from the students. Disabled vehicle handling, traffic enforcement on Shiloh Road. A mental health call performance by our officers that the homeowner was very pleased with. West Whiteland Police Department thanked us for the recovery of a stolen duty weapon. U.S. Secret Service, we were involved in an event involving Jill Biden earlier this month. And PC member, thank you, Cody, that thanked our officers for several things, including an alarm response at his residence. Are there any questions on the compliments?
I just wanted to ask you, what was it like for that whole experience with Joe Biden's visit?
I will say that the officer in charge of that detail not only sent an email, but he followed up with a telephone call about 4 days later. He said that our department set the gold standard. Lieutenant Leahy was responsible for leading that detail. He was responsible for the ops plan. And it was an outstanding experience for him because this is the first time since I've been here that we have had a Secret Service detail. But when the Secret Service keeps commenting that the agency did well, that's very wonderful feedback to get.
It's good to hear. Let's move
Mr.
to
Chair-
old
Mr.
business.
Chairman,
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman, just sorry to interrupt. We have Cindy and Dave Ware who are outside the building and they're trying to get into the meeting. So if anyone can go let them in.
Oh, Kelly just did. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Sorry.
My phone was silent.
Cody? Cody? It's just the finance people. We
Yeah.
leave them out intentionally.
Exactly.
No, we didn't. They really texted in.
Yeah. Sorry about that, guys. We were.
Oh, that's okay.
Full-time hiring.
Two candidates completed their hiring questionnaires. The review committee reviewed them and the command staff agreed on the final candidate. The subject will be offered a conditional offer of employment on October 30th. Following the completion of a background investigation, polygraph exam, psych eval, we expect that the candidate will start in 6 to 10 weeks.
Any questions? Commercial vehicle scales. I've never read so much about something I didn't know anything about.
Well, at last month's meeting, I was directed to do two things. The first one was to reach out to Chief Yeager, the chief of East Whiteland Police Department, regarding the scales and to ensure that quotes for the purchase of scales were obtained for the commission. Chief Yeager indicated that East Whiteland will not be donating the scales to WEGO because the items still have considerable value. With regard to selling them to WEGO, he indicated that his township requires him to sell all of his surplus equipment on municipal bid. He said that if in the future the township directs him to sell the scales on municipal bid, he will ensure that we get a phone call so that we can participate in the opportunity to bid on that. Sergeant Lewis obtained the two quotes for the scales that are in your packet. Based on his considerable experience, the better product is the Hanai scale. Number one, it is less expensive, quoted at what we need, the sets, $43,160 instead of $47,000. Another important issue that he pointed out is that the Hanai scales will fit in our vehicles as currently equipped, which would reduce costs if at some point the commission decides to go in that direction. If you would like this included in a future budget proposal, please advise. We will hold on to this material until then. Are there any questions on that? On the materials?
Tom, it's your favorite topic?
No, it's not my favorite topic. I'm just, and I'll say it publicly, I've said it before, I think that is, I certainly appreciate the township running us scales for the last 11 years at $6,000 a year. I don't think we should pay another dime more for them. I think that we've, give them back. And let's wait and chart our own course after we get the study back. I just,
Yeah,
it's just ludicrous to pay that kind of money. And that's my position.
I think it's appropriate for me to respond to the fact that in the 11 and a half years that I've been here, I have repeatedly recommended to the police commission that we purchase the scales because I agree with you that the long-term rental is not a good fiscal choice. However, the townships could not reach a consensus. And therefore, as an interim measure, I was directed to continue renting the scales. With regard to the scales, although we can continue to do commercial vehicle enforcement without the scales, because the inspection is separate from the weight and measure portion, I think it is an important component of the process, but ultimately that is the decision for the police commission to decide.
Chief, I'm glad that we agreed on something.
We're the friends.
You know, I just got a tingly feeling, but I'm glad.
Cody, any questions about the
I have
scale?
one question.
Okay, go ahead.
We can continue with weight enforcement in the townships. Lieutenant Steele from the state police said that they would come and do weight enforcements. I just don't think we should continue with this deal. And am opposed to any more leasing of property until we get the report back, the staffing study.
I can definitely contact Lieutenant Steele, but Lieutenant Steele is not the station commander for Avondale anymore.
I know, but he did say that when he was the station commander, speaking for the Pennsylvania, on behalf of the Pennsylvania State Police.
Cody, any questions, any comments about the scales?
You got one over here.
No, no, but we are scheduled, to spend $6,000 on them next year with.
We just paid the bill recently.
Which is paid, we're paid up to the end of December
Yeah.
twenty-four.
Okay, I saw.
Yes, we
I saw
didn't
that
pay
in the bills
25
for
yet.
fourth quarter. Okay.
So is the police commission directing me to take certain action or no?
Well, we pay till the end of the year. Is that correct? My position is we don't pay after that until we find out what direction we're going into. That's my position.
Would you like us to put it on the December
Oh, that's up to Tim.
PC?
If you'd like to.
Agenda?
Yeah. David?
Yeah, I just had a question about the revenue expense side of the scales themselves. So are the expenses for the scales split and the revenue goes to the courts based on who's going to receive the fines? So that would primarily be West Town revenue.
And you pay you pay the 56% of the $6,000.
Correct. Okay.
So I just want to be clear for administrative purposes for the chief. Do you and Cody feel the same way that Tom does? Because,
You mean buying versus leasing?
well, also the timing of it, because if you're directing her, hypothetically, if you agree with Tom, you're directing her not to continue with the renting, and yet you're not approving the sale. We won't have a way to, obviously, we won't have the scales to use come the new year. So as long as the commission is cognizant of that fact, that's fine, but I just want to let you know, as a group, you have to make that decision.
Let's assume we decided we even voted on it today. I'm making it up. What's the delivery on it?
So
What's the deliverable? I'm not.
like the time,
The delivery time.
If you bought it today, when would the scales get here?
I can't really say. That was one thing that I didn't ask Sergeant Lewis to pursue, but generally, they have a fairly quick turnaround for any commercial vehicle equipment that we've purchased.
And in the absence of, to sort of take Derek's question and to take it further, in the absence of a decision by the police commission right away, or even making the decision, and they come back and say it's going to be 3 months or 4 months before we get it, what's the net effect?
I would say that weight enforcement is an important part of what we do, because one of the things that we're finding is that there are a lot of vehicles going up and down 202 that are in excess of either what's considered legal weight or registered weight. And generally, those citations tend to be pretty hefty. And the benefit of those fines is that the money does come back to the townships. We have been working in East Goshen to find locations that are safe to do commercial vehicle enforcement, and we continue to struggle. But perhaps working with Mark Miller, we could perhaps identify some more locations. But the biggest impact is if we get a commercial vehicle that's involved in a serious or fatal crash, part of the mechanical inspection is always the weighing of the vehicle, because that has a considerable impact on crash causation. I know that we can reach out to the state police, but the response time may not be ideal. That's
Cody, your thoughts of how you wish to proceed?
At this point, I'd rather just wait and talk about this later. I mean, just from East Goshen's standpoint, I don't really want to spend 56% worth of the scales when we don't get the court fees. So,
Well, I'm trying to understand, sort of take into consideration what Derek just said, is that if I'm going to give you two options here, okay? And one maybe disagrees with Tom's approach. Thinking long-term, I would agree with them, spending $6,000. At least that buys us time. And then at the same time, when we make the decision, if they're delayed delivering it, at least we know we're covered appropriately. Or alternatively, we make the decision now and hope that they deliver it on time. Your thoughts, Cody? Are you there?
My apologies. I just had apparently I was in a quick car the last 2 hours on the Zoom and had two nice people remind me of that. So I think I'll just.
He said he got a couple of. I'll move it back to the.
There is one other alternative. In the past,
Yeah.
there was an agreement between the townships that all fines from commercial vehicle enforcement were either lumped together in a single fund that came into the department, and you got that back at the end of the year, fiscal year, when it was split, or they were splitting it pretty much along the PPU lines, right?
The funds came into the department, and at the end of the year, if there was a surplus, that it would go back according to your percentages, yes.
If that is East Goshen's objection, perhaps the townships want to explore doing that in the future.
Well-
So that's more equitable.
Mr. Chairman, I'm moving we table this matter because we're getting a lot of information that we didn't have, and I don't want to make a decision about stuff that I don't know about, and that's what, so I'll move we table it.
Okay. If it's tabling, then just say we'll table it.
And I will put a note here that December's PC agenda, that it will be put back on there as old business.
Put it on.
That's fine.
November or
November.
December?
November, December, which would you prefer?
Let's go with November.
Okay, we'll do.
Kathy, let me ask you a question. On the proposed 2025 budget version 3, so that we can have a full-hearted conversation about it. It'd be helpful for us to go through the rest of the agenda and we come back and deal with that one.
Sure. Whatever you
Well,
like.
that makes more sense to you.
Okay.
Okay. So let's go directly to new business accreditation.
Some individuals may not be aware that our accreditation manager has left us, and we are now going to need to explore a new method for pursuing accreditation. Do the commissioners want to talk about this more, or just laying the groundwork? At some point in the future, information will be coming back to the commission for options for them to examine. Is that sufficient for now, or do you want to have a more in-depth conversation about this?
No, if it were up to me, I would hold off.
Okay.
So that'll be on the November one as well.
November.
Agenda.
Officers' comments? Nothing.
Had my comment.
Statistics reports.
Although this was reported in the township, I'm just going to go over it very lightly. Every month, we compare statistics, overall statistics, month to month, year to date, and we compare it from like 2019 to the present. Our numbers are considerably higher than 2019. When we pull out all of the proactive and strictly look at reactive, for the time period of January 1st through the end of September for East Goshen, there was a 15% increase from 2019 to 2024. When we look at Westtown, we have a 59% increase for the same time period. I believe that the trends that I lay out for every month kind of explain why that's happening. But I'll be happy to review anything that was covered in the township meetings earlier this month.
Fine.
Okay.
Overtime?
Overtime, the latest report indicates there was 281 hours, comprised of 18 hours of operational overtime, 25 hours community overtime, which should be covered by the grant, 31 hours personal overtime, 127 sick overtime, and 80 hours patrol overtime. When you look at the last 3 months, the average is 228 hours of overtime. The average for the last 6 months is 200 hours, 0.58 hours of overtime. And year to date, the average is 191.5. So we are gradually trending up in the utilization of overtime over the course of the year.
Can you go through those numbers one more time?
Okay, I'm going to say that year to date for 2024, our average monthly overtime is 191.5 hours of overtime. Everything all included. Last 6 months, the average is 200.58 hours of overtime. And the last 3 months is 228. If you're looking at strictly the
What's the last 3 months?
last 3 months was 228.
Thank you.
This month, the most current one that you received of the 3 months, it was 281 hours.
You want to give us some insights as to why the, in particular, going from 3-month average of 228 to this particular month of 281?
Well, the loss of our part-time officer, who we used to fill in holes in our schedule, was painful. But also in the fall, you tend to have a lot of your mandatory state mandated training, such as firearms, use of force, verbal de-escalation, and based upon our staffing, there's no way to do it except through some overtime. Plus also, you have to look at when leave usage is most common. And we generally have leave usage for vacation purposes through the end of September, maybe the first week of October. That's not uncommon.
Okay. Any questions about it?
So seasonality is a big factor in this,
It
typically
is.
year over year.
And training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Cody, any questions on it?
All good.
Month-end report?
For the month of September 2024, we are slightly under budget for payroll. 34% under budget for benefits. Once again, that is due to the fact that a lot of our large insurance premiums are due at the end of the year. Vehicle expenses, we are only about 8% under budget. Other expenses are 11.5% over budget. That's just a lot of grant-related items that come off schedule, off time. So we are about 13% under budget at this point. I still would like to report that I think we'll have the surplus of about 150,000 at the end of the year. And I think other than that, and the reason for that again is one of our employees resigned at the end of 2024 or 2023, excuse me. So we haven't replaced him yet.
What's the biggest concern that one might have on, you said that if there was something kind of in advance, a red flag, insurance, the insurance number could go up.
We have all.
It hasn't been recorded yet.
But we had a quote for that, so it's in the budget. It's just that it's only paid out once a year. At the end of the year, we pay.
With the complaints that you hear around the country that insurance costs are going up, how has there been, what kind of increase are we seeing our insurance?
We are seeing somewhere between 5% and 8%. However, with health insurance, our health part of our Aetna only went up 2%.
Oh.
The prescription went up 17%.
Ooh.
So anything you see in the budget for 2025, most of it's prescription.
That's the same with the township.
Yeah.
With same numbers?
Very close. It was under 5% for the medical benefits, but the prescription drugs were 20%.
Cindy, same?
Yeah, no, you guys are on Divot, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're on the same insurance plan. Ours didn't go up that high.
Nice to see you, Mike. PPU report.
The split between East Goshen and West Town for the month of September, which is significant because it is the end of the PPU year, was 46.29% West Town, 53.71% East Goshen, which was an improvement over previous months. However, it's still outside the desired ratio of what is normally required of us, 44.5 and 55.5. That's 1.79% off. If you refer back to the agreement between West Town and East Goshen, there's actually a scenario on how, if we didn't have that letter holding the PPUs off,
Right.
how financially that would impact West Town having to pay East Goshen, because it's more than 0.5% off the desired ratio.
Is it, what's your sense as to whether the 1.79% off is that an anomaly this particular year, or do you see something continuing that way going forward?
I think it's twofold. I think that this is a direct result of losing Thornberry as a customer, because all of the PPUs that are generated by the 80 and the 40 sector are now all completely in West Town. But even when we take a significant amount of traffic enforcement and put it across the line into East Goshen, we still were unable to balance the PPUs. We are seeing a trend, and I do not know if it's a one-year trend or a long-term trend, but West Town's PPUs are starting to change a little bit. So we're going to monitor that and give as much information back to the townships as we can.
I don't have the numbers of right in front of me, but if I recall, there was of the, I don't know if it was PPUs or budgeted, Thornberry, WeGo absorbed of all the PPU costs to that WeGo absorbed 2.46% or something along those lines was from were Thornberry related, or was that activity?
I believe the number was actually between 8 and 10% of our total PPUs were given to Thornberry with regard to the actual incidents versus the proactive work. I'd have to break that down. But
I was actually just thinking about this year. I was thinking about it ever since they left. In other words, we're still doing work in Thornberry.
Here's
And
the numbers
yes,
up
there
here.
you go.
So October of 23, Thornberry was about 10%. You can see this 482 and then 47. A little less than 10% in November and December. And then you see how it drops down for January of 24. In January of 24, those 49 hours were mostly detectives turning over work to the state police. And then after that, I would say it's mostly court, with the exception of July of 24. It seems a little high. Perhaps there was an arrest made. If they had started a case and there was arrest made, they
So
had.
none of this is proactive. This is just reactive. This is ongoing work.
This is
What we have to do.
what we're required to do
Okay.
because we handle cases.
It's cheap. If you look at the reactive call trends for 3 years, I mean, the trend is that West Town is probably double as far as the percentage increase, correct?
I don't know if I would say doubling. I mean, like, yes, 15% just for 2014 to 2019. There was 15% increase in East Goshen and a 59% in West Town. I am a firm believer that you don't look at trends for 1 year, that you need, if that's something that the townships want me to do.
For trend?
Now
That's
it's
a
1
1
year, 1 year. And I could be, if you're interested in reactive comparisons only, next month I will pull and do a 3-year. Is that what the townships would like, a 3-year reactive? In my executive monthly summary?
It's up to you. Would you, Tom?
Whatever makes you happy.
I mean, I don't want to be the outlier here. I am interested in it, but it doesn't have to be immediate for next month.
The only reason I brought that up is because I know that at some point the townships are going to renegotiate their contract. And I want to make sure that I provide you information that has value to you.
What would help you?
It would help me to have the 3-year trend.
What would help you, Bela?
Would agree with that.
Okay, would you do the 3 years, please?
Yes, sir.
We
That
did
will be
vote.
my executive summary.
We need a motion.
I don't think it
That's good.
Thank you.
Before we go and go back to the proposed budget, public comment. Public comment from anybody. In the absence of public comment, let's go back to the proposed budget. 2025 budget version 3. And Kathy, you're up.
Okay, I'm trying to get this, smaller here. I don't know how much detail you want me to go in, but I would like to, read the notes at the top. So in version 3, we have, current employees with 1 new full-timer added in the last half of 2024. That hasn't happened yet, so I'm gonna say the last quarter of 2024, which was approved by the commission. Notes to be noted, a full-time officer was included in the 2024 budget, but retired unexpectedly in December of 23, and he was not replaced right away. Therefore, those line items that show a year-to-date 2024, 23 will be a little off. The 3.75 increase in payroll is according to the current union contract, which is effective through 12/31/25. Administration increase was 5%. This budget includes an admin that resigned and has not been replaced as of this date. That would be the accreditation manager. There's $96,000 worth of salary and benefits in this 2025 budget. The commission approved proposing 1 drone with training and fees. That's in here. The firearms instructor requested new firearms. It was discussed at the June and July commission meeting. The cost, however, is neutral. Any additional costs will dip into the firearm sinking fund of approximately 24 grand. That would only be as a result of training and holsters going over budget. We did receive our work comp quote and our health insurance quotes. We won't be receiving our disability quote until January, February, because that is when we started the policy. We're going to purchase 2 new vehicles instead of 4. And we increased the pension Act 205 receipts by $75,000. That's a really good, that's a great number. So I will go down and just do each.
I'm just gonna ask you, I'll interrupt you. For those who will watch this, even recording, can you explain what a sinking fund is?
Right. So there are various categories for sinking funds where we place money at the end of each year into kind of like a savings fund that you would have. We do it for phones because phones are quite expensive, weapons, computers, license plate reader, mobile video recorders, portable radios, security cameras, tasers, and body cameras, body worn cameras. We put somewhere between 1,000 and 8,000 in each year for those categories. Those funds sit aside and they are not included in the surplus at the end of the year. So when we also have a capital fund, which the townships contribute for roofing and parking lots and things like that. So that's where the sinking fund is.
Appreciate it.
So the first category is payroll expenses. They were decreased this year by 1,600, and I don't have my glasses, $55. The reason it was decreased, even though we increased other salary, was because the top officer retired. And he will be replaced with a new full-timer, obviously at a much lower price. Overtime, vacation, sick, comp, and personal were reduced significantly due to experience. Benefit expenses were reduced by 37,000. This was due for a couple of reasons. Insurance waivers reduced the cost of health insurance. So a family policy would cost us probably 35 grand a year. If someone decides to waive their insurance, they receive a check for $4,000. So we save money in that situation. We do not know what the long-term and short-term disability insurance quote will be, but they don't generally increase that much. We don't have a lot of long-term and short-term claims. I think maybe we've had 2 long-term disability claims in 40 years and probably 6 or 7 short term, which isn't a lot for this group. Vehicle expenses decreased by 83,100. This is because we're ordering 2 vehicles, not 4. The vehicle insurance, believe it or not, decreased a little bit. I'm not gonna ask why. And the gas prices are based on experience. Other expenses increased by $6,850, mostly due to adding the premium drone that was approved by the commission. So the total budget comes to $10,068,198. This reduced from the 2024 approved budget by $115,688.
Sorry.
That's okay. The 2 townships are responsible for contributing either 44.5% or 55.5% of the amount that's left over after all of our receipts. But being the total budget is $10,068,198, the shared cost is only $9.2 million because of our expected receipts of $814,000 and change. So the West Town and East Scotia's portion for 2025 is 1.13% less than last year.
That I wanted to point out, because you asked about sinking funds. A lot of people asked, what was the real benefit of getting the $822,000 PCCD grant? Because the vast majority of that was technology. Every year I found that I was coming back to the townships and the commission asking for technology, and the sinking funds never had the opportunity to occur. The benefit of getting $820,000 is that you're not tapping your sinking funds for things such as computers, MVRs, body worns, and a number of other pieces of technology. So when we come out of this grant at the end of this year, because we're not tapping the sinking funds for 2 years, and for some of them, like the body worns and the MVRs, is a 5-year agreement, we're going to have the opportunity to be in a better position to buy technology without asking for more money in a couple of years from now. And that was the real benefit of why I wanted to pursue the grant.
Is the, was that kind of grant, or even anything close to it, a one-time event? Like,
I always monitor all of the grants available. I get grant opportunities from the PA chiefs, from CLEAC, the accreditation people. I also get it from many of our legislators. We continue to monitor them. But at this point, there is nothing that has been remotely close to that.
okay.
But we'll continue to monitor.
Sure.
Along those lines, the statewide LSA recently just got awarded for East Goshen on behalf of Goshen Fire, $550,000
Great.
this year to help them buy apparatus, which is fantastic. But I'm wondering, is WeGo able to go out for the statewide LSA themselves, or would they have to be just like the fire? Would it have to be in a township entity?
I think it's going to be out of township entity, and that puts us at a disadvantage unless they recognize that we are a regional police department serving 2 townships. That grant, I didn't see anything that really applied to us. Most of the grant right now is the money that's being put out is for NIBRs. Out of the entire United States, Pennsylvania is the second lowest compliant state with only 2% of all agencies. And that's what we hit them up for. We got a NIBR specialist and we got all of the technology that would allow us. So we've already tapped that well. And I'm hoping that at some point they'll come back and say, now that you've got NIBRs, let's give you money to help stay NIBRs compliant. And that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I saw that some of the townships that their police had gotten body worn cameras and things like that they obviously didn't have the money for. So that's
Are you saying a lot of departments are not complying with NIBRS?
Nobody is. There's only 2% of all Pennsylvania.
And there's a reason.
Yeah, there is a reason.
And it's not only Pennsylvania.
Well, there's other states, but we are at the bottom of the list.
Well, I know, but I mean, sometimes I understand that, but there's a lot of problems with that
The biggest problem.
nationwide.
Yes.
Yeah.
The biggest problem is that records management systems are having great difficulty extrapolating the data out. And that's one of the reasons why the one big item that we purchased through the grant, which was Cody Pathfinder, we purchased it 2 years ago, but we haven't received it yet because it hasn't been released to the market yet. When it is released, I think more agencies will become NIBRS compliant, but we're getting all of that for free.
Question. Hold on a second. This is for you, Chief. Just again, to be consistent for people who will be watching and maybe watching, we tend to use expressions such as NIBRS, et cetera. Can you explain what NIBRS is?
Okay, for 100 years, crime statistics have been gathered through the Uniform Crime Report, which is UCRs. But it is so old and so defective that it does not capture a lot of information that people want to know. Like, for example, like I come into your township and I say, we've got rapes. Oh my God, we've got rapes. But is it the victim and the perpetrator knew each other, or do I have a serial rapist out there? NIBRS is a more robust crime statistic gathering format. And the federal government has been trying to force, convince, bribe police departments to use that reporting system. But it all comes down to money. And we got lucky. We got a lot of money to help us do this.
Can I quote you going forward that we will accept bribes and we go from the federal government?
$822,000 worth of money. Yes, sir, we will. If that's what it takes.
Tom, you exhibit. Go on, give a question.
What is 13 and a half? What's a half a holiday?
It's Christmas from
What is it?
Christmas Eve from 3 PM to 11 PM.
Christmas Eve from,
From 3 PM to 11 PM.
if you're working.
Yes.
If you're not working, you don't get it.
Well, if
I
you,
don't understand.
yeah, you get the holiday. If you're working, you get paid time and a half.
Right.
If you're not working, you get to take that half day or 8 hours, I should say, and another time.
And I have one other question since I'm sort of new at this part of, when is the police commission have to give the final approval? Or we give a final?
Today.
Today?
Today you move it forward and then the questions come from both townships.
Then they can come back to the police commission with questions?
Yes,
And is that usually do they usually do that?
yes.
Good.
You want a motion on that?
Please, just to pass it on, right?
To
Do you have more questions?
pass it or to
Pass it on to the townships, but Cody, do you have any questions?
Basically, you're just recommending, saying that you reviewed it and you're recommending it for referral to the townships. You're not approving it.
Cody, you there?
Couldn't get off. Yeah, I couldn't get off mute. My apologies. I'm all good. I have no questions. Appreciate all the work you did, Kathy and Chief and everyone on this.
Thank you.
Do you want a motion?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we pass this version 3 budget along to the 2 respective townships. And hopefully they will have comments and other recommendations.
Seconded.
Cody, second it.
Seconded.
Any questions at all? And I'm assuming you meant 2025, by the way.
What did I say?
You just said 20 or something.
Okay, well,
I
2025.
know.
We knew what you
I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Go ahead, go. Good. All right. I think that brings us to, one more chance. I'm sorry, Sergeant's gone, so it's 20. Any other comments, public comment? Otherwise, we'll move on and say, thank you everybody for coming. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thanks, guys.
Second. Aye.
Thanks, bro. Have a good time today.
Thanks, Kathy. That was a quick turnaround. I know how much that.
I did. I
know how hard
did
these are.
I was still waiting on answers yesterday.
I know.
Oh, no way, just got. Just now got it. We're out there for a while.
I was always on my phone on silent. I just saw, I didn't think that.
On the meeting.